Today we're going to talk about a great twist on an already great exercise, the eccentric accentuated stiff leg deadlift. We're going to talk about muscles targeted, how to set up for the exercise, how to perform the exercise, and definitely make sure to stick around to the end where we're going to talk about common mistakes and how to fix them.
Siege, Riley, Taz, yeah. Set me free and give me death, there ain't no other choices. When I lay down to go to sleep, I keep on hearing voices.
What's up guys, Ryan here, TreadawayTraining.com, where we help busy professionals get more results in less time through online training. If you're interested in more physique transforming training and nutrition topics, consider subscribing. First, let's talk about muscles targeted. Your spinal erectors extend the spine by pulling your upper body back. Your glutes and hamstrings extend the hips by driving them forward. The lats and traps stabilize the upper body and keep your back from rounding throughout the exercise. Before we get into the setup, let's first talk about what eccentric accentuated even means and why it's important. Resistance training exercises have two components: the concentric, which is the positive portion of the rep, and then there's the eccentric, which is the negative portion of the rep. The eccentric phase can always be loaded more heavily than the concentric. As an example, think about the bench press. You can obviously lower in more weight than you can lift back up to the top. And we can use this to our advantage. By occasionally utilizing exercises that focus on this eccentric portion, we can potentially boost strength and muscle gains. For example, this 2016 study looked at traditional training versus eccentric accentuated training for the leg press and leg extension, and after 10 weeks, the eccentric group had greater increases in strength and muscle endurance. The eccentric group did not have greater muscle growth. However, because they were able to lift more weight and were able to perform more reps, I believe that if the study would have lasted longer, they would have eventually seen greater muscle growth in the group that focused on the eccentrics. There are a number of ways that we can accentuate the eccentric, such as putting on more weight than you can lift, lowering the weight down under control, and having your spotter help you on the concentric or the positive portion of the rep, having a partner push down on the weight as you lower it, and several other methods. But the method that makes the most sense for this exercise is simply lowering the weight down more slowly. Now let's talk about how to perform the exercise. Load the barbell like you would if performing the standard deadlift. If you're not strong enough to do at least 135, which is one 45-pound plate on each side, what you can do is you can take the barbell and set the safety pins on the lowest setting in a squat rack and set the bar on top of the safety pins. That way you can get the correct spacing off the floor. When approaching the bar, you'll stop when the bar is directly above your midfoot. And when I say midfoot, I mean halfway between the back of your heel and the tips of your toes, not halfway between your shin and the tips of your toes. Your stance should be slightly narrower than shoulder width. The reason for this is because when you bend down and grab the bar, your arms should be completely vertical. We want our arms to be directly in line with the force of gravity. For this exercise, we'll be using a double overhand grip, and we'll be using lifting straps so that grip isn't a limiting factor. Bend over and grab the bar. Straighten your back and sink your hips until your back is flat. And you'll notice here that my legs aren't completely straight, and that's okay. Your legs will be more or less straight depending on the length of your arms and the length of your legs. The main focus is to ensure that your back is flat. Pick a spot about 5 feet in front of you on the floor to look at throughout the entire lift. Engage your lats by closing your armpits tight against your sides. I always tell my clients to protect your armpits. Drive your hips forward and pull the weight up your legs, squeezing the glutes at the top of the rep. For the eccentric portion, drive your hips back and allow the bar to slide down your legs. Don't think about bending over with the weight. Think about driving your hips back until the weight touches the floor. If you think about bending over forward, the weight will swing out in front, placing a lot of added stress on the lumbar spine. For this exercise, we want the eccentric portion to take 4 seconds. And when I say 4 seconds, I don't mean 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi. In other words, 4 actual seconds. Now let's talk about a few of the mistakes that I commonly see that you'll want to avoid. The most common mistake I see is performing this exercise with a completely straight leg. For most people, if your leg is completely straight, your hips will be higher than your shoulders and your low back will have to round in order to grab the bar, which isn't a safe position. Only straighten the legs out as much as is necessary in order to achieve a flat back. The other mistake that I commonly see is something that I've actually already mentioned, and that is thinking about bending forward with the weight rather than driving the hips back. Again, you are not bending over with this movement. You're simply driving your hips straight back and allowing the bar to slide downward in the process. Before we end the video, I want to clear up a little bit of confusion. You've probably heard the terms stiff leg deadlift and Romanian deadlift used interchangeably. However, there is a difference between the two. With the stiff leg deadlift, each rep begins and ends with the weight on the floor. With the Romanian deadlift, you pick the weight up off the floor on the first rep and don't touch the weight to the ground again until you complete the final rep. Question of the day. Are you currently utilizing accentuated eccentrics in your workout program? Let me know down in the comments, and if you are, let me know what your favorite exercise to use them with is. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. If you hate it, give it a thumbs down. If you want more content just like this, consider subscribing, or you can check out the exercise tutorial playlist, which is on screen right now, or you can join us over on the Treadaway Training Blogcast. We're there every Sunday at 3 p.m. That's treadawaytraining.com/blog. As always, God bless you and your family, and we'll see you tomorrow. First, let's talk about muscles targeted. My voice cracked. First, let's talk about muscles targeted.